What's up, everybody, and welcome to another What's Flying House, guys. Today we are starting off in the area of London Heathrow. So we're going to get straight in with a United 767-400, which is heading over to Washington from Zurich. Taxiing up to the runway is a Air France A319. Also, we're going to be taxiing up to the runway is an Air Malta A321 Neo. Also about to taxi up to the runway is a Delta 767-300. Either holding short or lining up onto 09 right is a Iberia A321 Neo. Not Neo, sorry, an A321. Should be heading out to Madrid. In the queue for departure is a Turkish 777-300 ER, which will be heading out to Istanbul. Also taxiing up to the runway is a KLM 737-800 in the new livery. Just arrived from Dubai is an Emirates Airbus A380. Going to be making its long non-stop route flights to Perth. It's a Qantas 787-9. Just departed is a British Airways A319, which will be heading out to Hamburg. Heading over to Bristol from Cologne is a Ryanair 737-800. On finals is a British Airways A380 from Miami. Also on finals is a Air Canada 787-9. And also on finals is a British Airways 787-8 from Rio de Janeiro. Heading over to Luton is an EasyJet A319 from Madrid. We're going to look more closely into Gatwick now. On taxi to the runway is a Orani Air Services Embraer ERJ 195, which will be heading out to Guernsey. Heading out to Las Vegas is a Virgin Atlantic 747-400. Just arrived in from Dublin is a Aer Lingus A320. Heading out to Amsterdam is an EasyJet A319. Heading out to Madrid is an EasyJet A320. Heading out to Amsterdam is a British Airways A319. Heading out to Calgary is a WestJet 767-300. Just arrived in from Doha is a Qatar 787-8. Heading over to Philadelphia from Zurich is an American 767-300. Heading over to Helsinki is an Finnair A321. Just heading into Amsterdam is a KLM 737-8 in the new livery. Heading over to Paris from Seoul is an Air France 777-200ER. Heading over to Frankfurt from Las Vegas is a Condor 767-300. Heading over to LAX is a Lufthansa A340-600. And looks like we've got a private A340-600, but going from NA to NA. Heading over to Lisbon from Berlin is a TAP Portugal A319. Heading over to Warsaw from London Heathrow is a Lot 737 MAX 8 in the Proud to be Independence livery. Heading over to Dusseldorf from Dresden is a Eurowings A320. Heading over to Kunming from Paris is a China Eastern A330-200. Heading over to Istanbul from London Gatwick is a 737-900 by Turkish. Heading over to Tel Aviv from New York JFK is a Delta A330-300. Heading over to Singapore from Munich is a Singapore A350-900. Heading over to Shanghai from Munich is a Air China A330-200. Heading over to Zurich from Dubai is an Emirates Airbus A380. Heading over to London Heathrow from Kuwait City is a Kuwait Airways 777-300. Heading over to Jakarta from Amsterdam is a Garuda Indonesia 777-300ER. Heading over to London Heathrow from Istanbul is a Turkish 777-300ER. Heading over to Taipei from Paris is a EVA Air 777-300ER. Heading over to Tel Aviv from Prague is an Al 737-8. Heading over to Zurich from Phuket is an Eldwis Air A340-300. Heading over to Mumbai from Munich is a Lufthansa A330-300. Heading over to Singapore from Paris is a Singapore 777-300ER. Heading over to London Heathrow from Dubai is a British Airways 777-200ER. And then heading over to Dubai from Manchester is a Emirates A380. Heading over to Dubai from London Heathrow is an Emirates Airbus A380. Heading over to Hanover from Dubai is a TUI 737-8. Heading over to Abu Dhabi from Amsterdam is a KLM A330-300. Heading over to Vienna from Van is a Austrian Embraer ERJ195. Heading over to Mumbai from Brussels is a Brussels Airlines A330-300. Heading over to Abu Dhabi from Dublin is an Etihad A330-200. Heading over to Doha from London Heathrow is a Qatar A380. Heading over to Abu Dhabi from London Heathrow is an Etihad A380 in the year of Zayed. Heading over to Brussels from DWC Dubai is an Emirates Sky Cargo 777. Heading over to Leeds from Kayseri is a TUI 737-700. Heading over to Tehran from Istanbul is a Turkish Cargo A330-200. Heading over to Tehran from Istanbul is a Mahan Airlines A340-300. Heading over to Doha from Birmingham is a Qatar Airways 787-8. Heading over to Abu Dhabi from Milan is a Etihad A333 in the Visit Abu Dhabi 2018 livery. Already seen this one. And then we got a Pegasus Airlines 737-8 from Istanbul to Bengal. And next we got a Swiss A330-300 from Zurich to Mumbai. The next one we're going to look at is a FedEx, if it wants to load, which is going to be a FedEx MD-11, which will be heading over to Paris from Dubai. And next we got a Cargo Logic 747-400 from Frankfurt to NA, but I believe he's going to be heading to Dubai. Next up we got a Qatar 777-3 from Paris to Doha. Looks like we got a C-17. Next up we got an Ethiopian Cargo 777 from Addis Ababa to Sharjah. Next up we got a Gulf Air 787 from Manila to Bahrain. Next up, we got a UPS 747-400 from Dubai to Shenzhen. Next up, we got a Philippines A330-300 from Manila to Dalaman. Next up, we got a ANA 787-8 from Tokyo to Mumbai. Next up, we got an Emirates 777-3 from Bangkok to Dubai. Next up, we got a Thai A350-900 from Bangkok to Dubai. Next up, we got an AirAsia X A330-3 in the Fly to Malaysia livery, and that's going from Kuala Lumpur to Jaipur. Next up, we got a Thai Smile A320 from Van Sanai to Bangkok. Next up, we got a Cathay Pacific A330-300 from Hong Kong to Dubai. Next up, we got a Etihad Airways 777-300 from Bangkok to Abu Dhabi in the old colours. Next up, we got a Malaysian A330-300 in the One World livery, which will be heading over to Kuala Lumpur from Delhi. No, which will be heading to Delhi from Kuala Lumpur, sorry. Next up, we got a Qantas A330-200 from Bangkok to Sydney. Next up, we got a Malaysian 737-8 from Phnom Penh to Kuala Lumpur. Next up, we got a Thai 747-400 from Bangkok to Sydney. Next up, we got a Singapore 787-10 Dreamliner from Singapore to Manila. Next up, we got a Singapore 777-3 from Tokyo to Singapore. Next up, we got another Qantas A330, but this time in the 200 variant from Sydney to Hong Kong. Next up, we got a Cathay Pacific Cargo 747-8 from Melbourne to Hong Kong. Next up, we got another Philippines A330-300 from Manila to Melbourne. Next up, we got a Qantas 747-400 from Hong Kong to Sydney. Next up, we've got a Singapore 777-200ER from Manila to Singapore. Next up, we got a Cathay Pacific 777-3 from Manila to Hong Kong. Next up, we got an ANA 767-300 ER from Tokyo to Ho Chi Minh City. Next up, we got a Emirates 777-3 from Angeles City to Dubai. Next up, we got a China Airlines A350-900 from Jakarta to Taipei. Next up, we got a Korean 777-300 ER from Seoul to Singapore. Next up, we got a Korean A330-300 from Seoul to Denpasar. Next up, we got a Japan 787-8 from Tokyo to Jakarta. Next up, we got another Japan 787-8 from Tokyo to Ho Chi Minh City. Next up, we got an Cebu Pacific A330-300 from Manila to Seoul. Next up, we got a Thai A380 from Tokyo to Bangkok. Next up, we got a Hainan 737-8 from Taipei to Haikou. And next up, we've got a China Airlines 737-800 from Nagasaki to Taipei. Next up, we got a Asiana 777-2 from Seoul to Bangkok. Next up, we got a Japan 767-300ER from Tokyo to Taipei. Next up, we got another Japan 787-8 Dreamliner from Tokyo to Hong Kong. Next up, we got a Asiana A330-300 from Seoul to Phuket. Next up, we got a EVA Air A330-300 in the Hello Kitty with Magic livery. Next up, we've got an Asiana A330 from Seoul to Ho Chi Minh City. Next up, we got an Asiana A330-300 from Seoul to Bangkok. Next up, we got a Korean Air 747-8 from Seoul to Honolulu. Next up, we got a Korean 737-800 from Jinju to Seoul. Next up, we got a Korean A330-300 from Ulaanbaatar to Seoul. And that is going to be the end of the stream, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.